Go get a little light on the situation, shall we? Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Um, it's another night for some good nature, isn't it? We were off last week. 'Cause I took a little vacation. I was up in northern Wisconsin, which I will say I just took a pictures while I was up there. Believe it or not, I was so enthralled with the nature up there that I mostly just stared at it and I didn't take as many pictures as I probably should have, which I guess is one more reason that I need to go back. um, but it's it's a lovely evening to sit outside here and get caught up on the last couple weeks of events and adventures. There's something I have been dying to show you guys. Um, let's back up just a little bit. I know we've got some folks here who are somewhat new to good nature. Um, for I don't know how many years now, I have been in pursuit of the great white walnut, also known as the butternut. This is a tree that grows in our area. It's actually a close relative to the black walnut, which we see in a lot of different places. But unlike the black walnut, the white walnut is prone to disease, in particular a canker disease that causes the death of the tree, usually before it reaches a fruiting age. They get all kind of weepy and messy, and they don't survive. Yet somewhere here in the neighborhood surrounding Casado, there is a butternut tree growing. I find these nuts around. I just dug one up a couple weeks ago here in the yard. Well, one of you, and Sarah, I'm not sure if you're with us tonight. I think it was you who suggested that I plant one. Now this one had already been enjoyed by a local creature, but I did. I planted one. Look, it's growing. Um, it's in a pot right now, and I want to consult with our restoration crew about the best thing to do to get it through the winter. Do I leave it here and plant it next growing season? Do I plant it in the fall and let it overwinter and hope that um, me or some of the furry roommates don't crush it when we're playing in the yard? I've tried fencing things, and again, we, the furry roommates, rabbits too take their toll on things I've tried to plant. This just seems so small and delicate, but look, it's actually growing. I'm so excited. I don't know, since it did grow from a tree that was clearly old enough to produce fruit. Um, I don't know if that means it's got disease resistant genes. Best way is to put it in, keep encouraging it and see what happens. So yeah, I'm going to find out how to best handle this. And I'll keep you posted. But thanks, Sarah, for that suggestion. And let's keep our fingers crossed that we can get this little tree to turn into a big tree someday. I don't know if the microphone here is picking up our guest chorus tonight. We've got let me see if I hold it up, maybe that'll help. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's registering on the sound. Anyway, there's scissor grinder cicadas up in the trees above us, and they are singing away, which reminded me, I mention of this at the first of the year when it came out, but it wasn't as relevant then as it is now. There's a local naturalist, Carl Strang, who's been very dedicated and involved in the documenting of the singing insects of the Chicago region. He's now retired and he travels around quite a bit from Wisconsin through around Lake Michigan, through Illinois into Indiana, and I think southern Michigan too. Just documenting the presence or sometimes the absence of singing insects, which include our crickets, our grasshoppers, our katydids, and our cicadas. Well, every year he updates a document that he created several years ago. And I'm going to share the screen here, I think. We're going to optimize this, and we're going to go to the screen here. We're going to share this. Please move this window away from the share. All right. So this is the front cover of this PDF. The Singing Insects of the Chicago Region, a guide to crickets, katydids, grasshoppers, and cicadas with audible displays, which means the things that make noise. And what's great about it is that you can go and page through and say we want to listen to, scroll down here a little bit farther to our cicadas. If we want to listen to the cicadas, what he's included in here are the links to the recordings. So here's our scissor grinder cicada, page 121. So if we scroll down here, and by the way, while I'm doing this, you might be thinking, okay, that's cool, Pam, but how do I get my very own copy? Let me know. Shoot me an email, and I would be glad to forward this to you. Carl makes it available. In fact, he encourages people to go out and listen. And if you hear something that you're unsure of, can't find it in his field guide, he would most likely want to know about it so that he could go check it out. But he makes it available free of charge. And so I've got a free copy that I'd be glad to share with you. So here we have the scissor grinder cicada, and I know there are ways to tell the different species apart. Here in St. Charles, in this part of King County, we've got four of the annual cicadas. And by annual, these are the ones we hear every year. Their life cycle is much longer than a year. It's estimated at 2 to 5 years that they spend underneath the ground before they come up and sing like this. But they are so very similar looking. I much prefer to just listen and tell the difference. This one has the pulsing sound. If you can picture a grinding wheel going around and around. Let's go here. Let's go to Songs of Insects. That's a website. Okay, screen sharing is paused. All right, so I'm going to stop this share, and then we're going to start another one so that we can go to this page. Nope, not the right one. Let's stop again. Let's try one more time. Songs of Insects. Okay, so this is a really cool website. There's a book that is also related to this website. And this there's a gentleman named Lang Elliott that you might have heard of. He has made quite the name for himself in documenting the sounds, not just of insects, but birds and well, actually all kinds of nature sounds. I remember we used to have a CD of his recordings that we had playing in the wildlife room when I worked down at Red Oak in North Aurora. And there was one, it was the sound of a beaver's tail splashing as a warning, to other beavers. And he always thought, is that really a beaver splashing in a pond, or is that Lang Elliott sitting in his bathtub with a 2x4 and splashing it in the water? Anyway, here, let's play here this recording of the scissor grinder cicada. What I'm hearing in the trees above my head, but now you can hear it too. All right, and again, it's just like with our frogs, it is the male cicadas that make this sound. I think we're going to cut him off before he goes off again because that's really all I had to say was that this PDF is available, and if you'd like a copy, just let me know. I'd be glad to share it with you. All right. With that, let's um let's sashay over here to our photos for this week. As I mentioned, I was up in Wisconsin. This is the dock. My friends have a cabin up near Saint Germain. This is a smaller lake up there called Lost Lake. And there was actually a boat anchored to the end of this dock. I was sitting out here with my friend one evening and she goes, "Oh, look, I don't know if you can see who came to join us right here." Did zoom in on it. An eagle came in. The eagles were there every day. They would come in. Sometimes they would just sit in the trees up above the cabin, and sometimes they would bring a fish up onto the dock. Couldn't quite tell what this was quite zoomed in. And this was just with my cell phone, so you can see it's kind of pixelated. Can't really make out what the fish was, but it was really more of a snack size fish. It wasn't something. Oops, the eagles were going to be taking. The eagle's going to be taking back to any of its at this point fledglings, but even mom and dad get hungry. Yeah, you kind of got a sneak preview of the next picture. I saw this billboard, and this, by the way, I was driving. I wasn't able to take a picture of it, but thanks to our friend Google, I was able to look up a very similar billboard online. This is a great reminder. We love here in Illinois seeing sandhill cranes. It wasn't all that long ago that they were on the state threatened and endangered list, and they have through restrictions on hunting, but also habitat restoration, they've made a pretty remarkable comeback, and we're seeing them in lots of different places today, but they are not always loved wherever they go. And Wisconsin is one of the places where I think the timing of their migration, they're arriving as the corn is coming up out of the ground. They're known to strip the uproot the corn seedlings, and they have in some areas had pretty significant impacts to the yields of the farmers' fields. So there's I don't think it's a lethal thing. I think it's more of a deterrent. Um, let's see. Here's what the company says. It's Its liquid and dry applications surround each kernel with a protective coating that causes birds immediate yet temporary digestive distress. After attempting to eat newly planted seeds, they quickly look elsewhere, leaving your newly planted field unharmed. So yeah, it's a deterrent product that is being marketed pretty heavily, from what I could tell from the signs I saw as I was driving through the rural areas of this was mostly in central Wisconsin, but yeah, it's just a different perspective on again, it's a bird that by and large is welcomed in this area, but isn't always the case with our neighbors to the north. Let's see. So this was a little up close experience that some of us who walked together on Friday afternoons. This was a couple weeks ago on this is an oak tree at Mount St. Mary's Park. It's a good sized moth. You can see there. That's her swollen abdomen. Swollen, I should say, with eggs. It was kind of a surprise because we've taken measures, the city and the county, and I believe the state have been taking measures to control this particular moth. This is a gypsy moth, female gypsy moth. Here's another look at her. They are flightless, but they emit pheromones that attract the males. We didn't see any males. They're a day flying moth. The males flutter around in the daytime, and when there is a gypsy moth um, population, the females will be visible on tree trunks, and then the males will be fluttering around in a kind of an erratic pattern. Their flight reminds me of the way bats fly around as they're echolocating and looking for insects. But in the case of these moths, the males are fluttering around trying to catch the scents of the females. Again, we didn't see any males, but this presented a moral dilemma. What do we do with a moth that has the potential to produce hundreds of eggs and then therefore hundreds of damaging caterpillars? These gypsy moth, the moth itself, that this stage of life, it doesn't. The adults aren't the problem. It's the caterpillars that eat the leaves, and gosh, last year they defoliated several trees on the east side of St. Charles. So what do you do? I have to say, for the those of you with what's the warning, sensitive viewers, be warned, this next picture is going to show something that might not be appropriate for your eyes. We smushed it. I stepped and I tried to make it as quick and painless as possible. But look at all these eggs. She was just loaded with eggs that each one of these could have been a caterpillar that would have gone forth and wreaked havoc on that particular oak tree. So yeah, despite the treatments, there's still a few out there. I would recommend doing the same if you can. I hate to kill stuff, even invasive things like this. I really had to wrestle with it, but I did use the old shoe method, and there's one less, and hopefully that was the last of them, female gypsy moths here in St. Charles. So if you see any, I'd be interested. Drop me a line. I'd be interested to know if anyone else runs into them. Let's run back one more time just to get a look at the moth. We do have other white moths, but these, again, they're flightless. When you touch them on a trunk of a tree, they might, fluff their wings a little bit. They don't even really try to get away all that much. They're very, at this point in their life, sedentary. I think they might even be done eating. I'm not sure if this is a moth that parts as an adult or not. But anyway, yeah, keep your eyes open, and if you see one, if you see something, say something, and do some stopping too. Right. So this was my welcome back call when I got back from Wisconsin last week. There was a message from the golf course over at Potawatomi. This is a look inside the pro shop of the golf course. They have very, very high ceilings in the pro shop, and you can see we've got the gabled window up above. We've got the I don't know if you'd call that track lighting that's shining down on all the golf togs they have for sale there, the shirts and the gloves, and then they got everything there. They got clubs and golf balls. Well, look what's on the track here for these lights right here. Let's zoom in. That's a bird, and it's not any bird. It's a chimney swift. The message from the golf pro was that there was either a bird or a bat in the golf pro shop, and sure enough, it was a chimney swift. Some of you might be familiar with the chimney swifts of Potawatomi Park. They roost, and I believe there's a nesting pair too in the chimney at the opposite end of this building. So the golf pro shop is at the north end of a large, actually pretty old stone building. It was a WPA project back in the 1930s. Golf pro shop in the Potawatomi golf course is at the north end of the complex. To the south is the pool building with the locker rooms and the check-in area. And the chimney at the south end is no longer in use, but so great. Our facilities team has agreed to not cap it. It's also on line, which is nice for these birds. They need that rough surface on which they can hang their little claws. This is a bird that doesn't really perch. Look at it. Its position here on this light track. It's not perched like you would expect to see, say a robin or a sparrow or something. It's hanging. And that's what chimney swifts do. They've got weak legs but strong feet and claws, and they hang on vertical surfaces. So this poor thing, it had been flying around the golf course pro shop for at least a day at this point. So it was no doubt hungry, thirsty, stressed, just wanted to get out. I contacted our facilities team to see if there was any chance. Let's go back here. This light up here was very attractive to the bird. Birds always want to fly up. In fact, a couple weeks before this, we'd actually had an oriole, a female Baltimore oriole, in the lobby of Hickory Knolls. I don't know how it got there. I just got a call to come out and help. In that case, we were able to open the windows that are at the top of our lobby windows. There's some ventilation windows up high that we took the screens out of and opened up, and were able to encourage the bird up and out that way. I was kind of thinking maybe we could do the same thing here, but I don't know, these windows, if they do still open, it would have been quite a project. What we opted to do instead was encourage this little bird to come down. I went over just as we had it at Hickory Knolls. We had gone over to the Otter Cove water park there and gotten one of those long, I think they're called skimmer nets. It's the long handled nets that they use to pick up, skim off the schmutz that ends up in the pool water. Not schmutz is not a good word. Like the leaves and things like that, floating candy wrappers, those kinds of things. They use those nets to clean off the top of the water. So I went over to the Potawatomi pool, the Swanson pool, and I got their long handled net, which is really long. It was an older model than what they had at Otter Cove. And I honestly, I kind of felt like Don Quixote trying to run the pole into the pro shop, because I'd open the door and then I'd run, and invariably, this took me like, I don't know, half a dozen tries to get in. The golf course guys had to go and help golfers, so there was nobody around to hold the door, and there was no doorstop on the door. So the door kept closing on this long handle. The thing was about 20 feet long, this pole. Anyway, finally got the pole in, and then just by sort of putting it, lifting it up, putting it in front of the bird, I was able to encourage it over towards a wall, and it fluttered against the wall. Luckily, it didn't fly hard. It just kind of fluttered against the wall and then fluttered downward, hit the carpet, and then I had a towel handy. You can see there's the little chimney sweep there. This is the carpet of the pro shop. And picked it up. Its eye looks a little funky here, but that's because it got right here, it had a cobweb on its face. So we got it cleaned off. And I took it outside. I was very encouraged by the way it was gripping my finger. That was a good thing, because I didn't know, with it, one being in the store, the shop for as long as it had been, and it being no doubt stressed now at this point, even more stressed, because now this big giant noisy human had a hold of it. I was afraid that it might go into shock or something, but it was gripping my finger, trying to, I think, ignore me. It kept, closing its eyes. I tried to give it a drink of water, and I thought, yeah, they don't drink, they don't come to bird baths. They drink on the fly. You might be lucky enough if you've got chimney swifts in your area. If you're here locally, you can go down to the Fox River and you might actually see one come down and take it. Or they drink the way swallows do, where they just kind of dip their bills in the water and then fly off again um, to consume more insects, which are 100% of their diet. So as I was sitting here, I actually realized, right in front of the pro shop, probably not the best place to let it go. I started to walk out towards the golf course, and I remembered there's golfers out there. So that probably wasn't a good option for us either. I'd hate to have the bird get clobbered by a golf ball. So we went over to the south end of the building, past the entrance to the pool. There's kind of a quiet little nook there. And just when I was, wondering, is the bird gonna take off, or should I take it to a rehabber? It kind of rubbed its wings a little bit and took off, flew around the side of the building and made a beeline for the river, where I'm sure it got something to drink and something to eat. And we're just going to say it lived happily ever after. And to be perfectly honest, so did I. When I went back to the pro shop, they said, Pam, what can we do to thank you? I said, well, I like candy. So I got a little treat out of it too. The chimney swift got some river water and some river bugs, and I got a bottle of water and one of my favorite snacks, some M&M. So yeah, smiles all around in that little story. Then another nerd walk came along, and we found this cool thing. Whoa! Hope you guys can hear that. It's an airplane. Found this laying in the trail. This was a walk over at Nelson Lake Marsh, which is within the Dick Young Forest Preserve in Batavia. You might recognize it. Let's zoom in a little bit. They look like tufts of fur, but you can see these are actually scales covering this thing. That there were actually 4 discrete things. 1, 2, 3, 4. The forewings and the hind wings of a little critter called a Luna moth. Not this one. There's a lot of things that will catch and feed on Luna moths. Bats are known to be bats. Everybody always talks about how bats eat mosquitoes, but when you think about it, mosquito, bats aren't all that big, but a mosquito, even for a small bat, is a tiny little snack. Beetles, moths, those are much hardier insects to catch. So it might have been a bat who plucked off the wings of a Luna moth. It might have been something like a praying mantis. They will also pluck the wings off of their prey. And let's see, we're in August. So the praying mantis isn't actually, they're not full size yet. So this would be a pretty good size prey for a creature like that. It might have also been something, I was going to say less dynamic, but all of our local wildlife is pretty cool. Even our more common things like opossums and raccoons and things, they might gobble something like this, would they be lucky enough to find one? But anyway, the wings themselves are not where the nutrition lies. It's within the beefy body underneath here. So yeah, Luna moth wings on the trail over at Nelson Lake Marsh. This, by the way, this is a reader had sent me this photo a few years ago. This is a male Luna moth, and we can tell that by these feathery uh, antennae here. Much like when we were talking about the male gypsy moths looking for the pheromones of the female, they use their antennae to sense that. And now the Luna moth, the antennae are a lot more noticeable. They're the Luna moths can either have antennae that are shaped like threads or shaped like, I think of these as feathers, looking like feathers. And these are quite noticeable. The female would have smaller versions of these feathery antennae. Pretty cool, huh? So another round of Luna moths is on there. I think we had one a little bit earlier back in June, and now those, the progeny of those are out and about now, the Luna moths. Now, we've had some rain, and rain is always a great opportunity for creatures who need to worry about their skin drying out. It's a great opportunity for them to get out and about. Hot sun, windy, sunny days are not great for movement for creatures like this, but the rain we had on Saturday was a perfect time for this little toad to get out, maybe have a little change of scenery, catch some bugs along the way. This was on the sidewalk at Hickory Knolls. Greeted me as I was heading to a program that we had there on Saturday morning. Now, the rain has also brought some other things, including these. So yesterday, I snapped these photos. I was at Hickory doing we started our produce pickups. Our community gardeners are so very generous with the extra vegetables that they grow. And so twice a week, I'll run the vegetables over to the donated vegetables over to the food pantry at the Salvation Army. So I had made the pickup at Hickory Knolls, and I was about to head up to the gardens at Primrose Farm, and I see these things. They look like dishes. I thought somebody had left dishes, and not little, little teacup saucers. I mean, these were ginormous mushrooms. In fact, here's a fly, kind of gives you some sense of scale. These things had to be, oh, I don't know, at least 6, 7, 8 inches across. You can see they've got gills underneath. They've got this little ring here that is called I believe it's called an annulus. Some mushrooms have these, some don't. I didn't take one to make a spore print, which is one of the steps that you often have to identify a mushroom. And I'm not a mycologist. I did a little bit of flipping around, and there's a group of mushrooms called parasols. There's parasols and false parasols. I'm not gonna attempt to put a name on these. They were just big mushrooms. There were 4 of them growing in 2 different areas. In fact, I did use the old, in fact, I think I left my lip balm there. I reached in my pocket today and I couldn't find it. So if you're at the community garden plots by Hickory Knolls and you see a minty sunshades lip balm laying there, yeah, it's mine. But they were big, they were perfect, and they were certainly worth a few photos. But it just shows what happens when we get a little bit of moisture. All kinds of things take advantage of it, the amphibians and the fungus. So this was a kind of a not so great thing, but it was a great learning teaching tool. for a couple different things. It was a good reminder that even the dirty windows can cause window crashes. We've always kind of prided ourselves at Hickory Knolls that we have not really lost all that many, that despite all the huge windows we have at the nature center, we don't really have that many window kills. So I don't know if it was maybe because of the rain, the window wasn't obvious, but we did find this bird on the patio on the north side of the building. Um, it's an eastern kingbird. And this is a bird, it's a flycatcher. It's we we frequently see them foraging for insects by the garden plots. This is a bird that tends to find a prominent post, a branch that sticks out from a tree, a fence railing, and this case, we did see another kingbird not too far from this, and the other one was alive. It was using a shepherd's hook to perch on and to fly out and catch insects. So I did pick up the bird. In fact, Bob, I will get this to you so that it can go down to the Field Museum and become a permanent part of the skeleton collection down at the field. But I wanted to show you guys something that we hardly ever get to see on the kingbird. This is how we found the bird, laying on the bricks. But then I turned it over, and kingbirds have this little shock of reddish orange on top of their head. I believe this is used in territory encounters with other kingbirds. The scientific name for this bird is Tyrannus tyrannus, so the tyrannical flycatcher, and they can be pretty defensive of their territory, keeping it clear of other kingbirds. So this was an opportunity to get to see that feature. It's something that is not obvious in the field. Yeah, like I said, you have to be pretty lucky to catch a glimpse of it. But here, unfortunately, yeah, we did get a nice long look at the unfortunate kingbird. And this also, this completely passed me by. It fell off my radar this year. Last year, I remember I had marked on my calendar that I think I started in mid-July, and they still beat me to it. These are the remains of the husks of a hazelnuts. The hazelnuts came and went again. This is, you talk about a hot commodity. The squirrels and the chipmunks, they grab these things so quickly. They're one of the tastiest nuts, and they're one of the earliest nuts to be available. And it looks like the window opened and closed again. I looked around on the hazelnuts around where this husk was, and I just could not find any. So I guess those of you who keep track of such things, I know I'm going to mark my calendar for next year to once again try, because they have a little different taste than the European hazelnuts that we buy in the store. Those are sometimes called filberts, but the American hazelnut is really a treat. You just have to be able to beat the critters to it. But even though the nut itself is gone, they are a really pretty, boy, I guess we're under flight pattern tonight. Sorry about that. Yeah, mark your calendars for next year. Hazelnuts. You want to try them. They're really tasty. And then this was kind of a cool find. This was just across the street here at Davis Park, down the street here from Casa Auto. It's hard to, it's a cool find, but it's also a good reminder to use something that provides a sense of scale. Um, I got this time I still had my lip balm. So this is the one of the tail feathers of a red-tailed hawk. Um, we actually have, I think the hawks have two. They fledged two um, youngsters. In fact, yesterday I did a program over at Carriage Oaks, which is about 7 blocks from here. The nest that these birds grew up in is about 5 blocks from here, and I think the birds come a few blocks this way or go a few blocks the other way. Uh, anyway, there was quite the to do over at Carriage Oaks when a young this year's young a red-tailed hawk grabbed a pigeon on the balcony of one of the residents of Carriage Oaks and proceeded to do what hawks do. They snap the neck and then pluck the feathers and then delicious pigeon meal right there on the balcony of one of the residents' apartments there. We're seeing a lot of red tail activity in the area, and it's time. The parents have raised the young to the point where they're probably still helping them a little bit, but it won't be too much longer. They're going to be shooing them away from this home territory that they're going to want to save for themselves. But it's also a good time to molt some feathers and get ready for the coming cold weather months. So keep your eyes open. You might see a red tail feather too. Now this picture, so I took this picture just a few hours ago. I don't know if you can see what I was aiming for here, but this is at a pond in Batavia. This is a neighborhood retention pond. It's behind the house where my friend Amber lives, and I had gone to. They had some concerns in their neighborhood about a little wooded area and some plans that are progressing in that wooded area. But she said, "Oh, before we go over there, I wanted to show you where the herons live." And I don't know if you can see, let's zoom in here. You can see right here, that was the picture I was able to, but Amber, she's got a pretty good camera and she's a really good photographer. These are young green herons. They are still in they've, in fact, this is the green heron nest. I thought, well, I always thought mourning doves were the slackers when it comes to nest building, but green herons aren't far behind. This was a very loose assemblage of sticks that they still hang out in. Today, we had some, what looked like it was going to be some threatening weather, but it really didn't amount to much this afternoon. The wind picked up, but these little guys, they all hurried back home to this nest after going. I think the farthest one went maybe, I don't know, 8 feet away from the nest, and then they all went back as the clouds started to gather and the wind picked up. But these are young green herons, and it's super cool. 3 of them. Amber said that the parents seem to be gone. She's able to keep a pretty close watch on the nest, and while they do come back in the evening, and they do feed the young quite heavily in the evening, they don't spend a lot of time going back and forth during the day. So the birds are pretty much on their own during the daytime hours, and the parents then come back to the roost at night. But this was pretty cool, and boy, as we learn more and more about how things are, how different creatures developed into the forms we see them today, it really, don't things look kind of like dinosaurs, little feathery dinosaurs, very prehistoric looking creatures at this point. Won't be too much longer and they will be fledging and off on their own, but it's neat to see this. Like I said, this is a pond. It's ringed by houses, but boy, they get Amber. Some of you longtime good-natured listeners might remember last year, Amber had a Virginia rail come and take a rest on her front porch. She gets lots of warblers too, that use that uh, pond as a stopping off area. I think the insects by the water are plentiful, and the trees around it provide some good cover. It's a really happening spot for what is basically a drainage and stormwater retention area for the west, one of the west side neighborhoods in Batavia. Pretty cool, huh? And then let's wrap up here. We started with cicadas. Let's end with a couple of cicada shots. This is a little nature nerdly hobby that I have, looking for these, and then putting them all together and seeing if I can spot differences. Again, the adult cicadas, to my eye, are so very similar. It's hard to tell. You know, there is one, I believe it's the dog day cicada, that's a little bit smaller than the other ones, but you know, looking at these shells, it gives you a good sense for how many of these creatures we have coming up out of the ground and going up into the trees. Speaking of which, it's we've had a shift, change over the course of our program tonight. We started off with the cicadas singing. They are very much part of the day shift, and they've shut down. There's no more scissor grinders or lyric cicadas or Linnaeus cicadas or dog day cicadas. They've all gone to bed. And now what I'm hearing in the background, again, I don't know if the microphone can pick it up or not, but it's the continued trills of what we call the ground crickets singing away in the background. Oh, I wanted to put this into as just a little reminder. We are going back to WGN this Friday. Segments usually air around 9:40, but WGN Morning News is so kind to have us back again. We're going to be talking about cicadas. We're going to test our ears to see if we can, and maybe some of the on-air talent, if we can tell the difference between the four predominant species that we have in the Chicago area. So yeah, if you're available Friday morning and can tune in, that'd be great. We have a couple more viewers that we can add to the list. All right, wait a minute, I'm going to stop the screen share. Looks like we got a couple of chats. Let's see. Scissor Grinder Fest. Yeah, they I saw somewhere that because they start early and sing throughout the day, that they are probably our most numerous species in this area. Some of the cicadas, they're all diurnal. They all are active during the day, but some are more concentrated in the morning, and some are more afternoon and evening. And so shorter calling period then it would figure then that there's probably less mating activity, and therefore fewer of those different numbers. But yeah, the scissor grinders, they do a good job of singing through long parts of the day. And I don't know, you know, the name scissor grinder, it evokes such a visual memory that I have of the scissor grinder man that would come through the neighborhood with his little cart and that wheel that he would run. It was a foot pedal operated wheel that he would use to sharpen. And he did knives, scissors, all kinds of implements like that. What type of tree in St. Mary's Park has pinkish flowers at this time of the year? Well, you know, Mount St. Mary's has an arboretum. And so there's a lot of species there that aren't Illinois native or sometimes even American native. Is it, I'm trying to,
Pam, it was my son and daughter-in-law. We were watching the kids at the park and they took a walk around and they asked me, and I don't even, a lot of them are labeled even, but I don't know where it even was, but I wanted to see if you knew, you know.
I could ask. And actually I can go over there and look too.
Oh no, I could go look too. I mean,
Well,
but I'm not sure exactly where it was. They didn't tell me where it was.
I'm gonna
So
guess down at the south end, because now that we're talking, there was and boy, I can't remember the name of it. The nice thing about the Arboretum part of the park, that south end, is that a lot of the trees are labeled, and you can look somewhere. It might not be obvious. Sometimes you have to kind of look in the mulch
yeah.
to find the name. But yeah, there was let me see while we're talking, because I want to say there was a tree with the name something bells, and of course now all I can think of is like Southern Bell. And I can't remember, but I'm guessing most things in this area are done blooming at this point, and what we're seeing now, fruits. In fact, I was just noticing there's still a lot of mulberries out. Mulberries are usually an earlier summer fruit, and I don't know why they're fruiting for so long. Maybe again, we had such a dry start to the summer. Maybe the moisture is favoring another round of fruiting for those trees. But let me, I'm just kind of scrolling back here, Meg, to see. Let's see, the yellowwood. Clastrus lutea. There was a tree that had caught my eye, and of course then I didn't take any pictures of it. Yes, I did. Here, let me just show this. I don't think this is what we're talking about. And this is a tree. It's a North American native, but it is, I believe it's a southern species. Screen share. Here, this is called a yellowwood, and it was really attractive. But those aren't pink flowers, are they? Those are
No.
It's kind of cool, dangly looking things. I'll see what I can find out for you, Meg.
Okay, because I felt, oh, I didn't know what to say to them, and I thought, okay, I'll try to find out. But I should have asked specifically where it was, but I didn't.
Pink mountain silver bells. Yeah, and that's where I'm thinking it is probably down down at that south.
Okay, the south area. Thank you so much, Pam.
Pink mountain silver bells. Yeah, there is a one that's called Pink Mountain Silver Bells, and it's native to the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina. Possibly. Yeah, I'll see what I can find out, because this is an odd time for things to be flowering in this corner of the planet. The dresses, yeah, that is a great name, isn't it? And then Terry, when did katydid start? I checked with our friend Valerie, who lives amongst the woods and the katydids. I checked in with her last night, and she said they started up last week. And if we go to our friend Carl Strang, if we go up here to his guide, I'm going to look up true katydid, and then I'll put it back on this screen share so you can hear it. This will be a good way to finish things up. You can keep your eyes and ears open. Actually, don't even bother to keep your eyes open, because unless they blow out of a tree in a wind or a rain, they are really, really hard to spot. All right. Take a little bit of time to, here we go. All right, I'm going to share this. Boy. Okay, so here is the common true katydid. Let's move this away. You know what? I'm going to try one more time because I wanted to make sure I got the. Yep. All right, I've got the sound sharing. Okay. So here is a picture of the true katydid. This one, Anne, since you mentioned scientific names, Pterophylla camellifolia. This it's the insect that has wings that look like wings, and sure enough, here it is. If it is up, they tend to be quite high in the trees too, which doesn't make it easy to spot. But they are named for, their common name refers to the sound that they make, which sounds a little bit like an argument of Katie did. Yes, she did. No, she didn't. And there's even some folklore about, oh, I don't know. I think somebody murdered somebody named Katie. I think there was maybe a love triangle, and Katie was implicated in the deaths of the other two parts of the three-parted relationship. And the insects were heard to be debating, you know, Katie did. Yes, she did. No, she didn't. Let's see. So let's go to a link here. Sorry, there's a super cool looking pink midge that just landed on my screen. I wish you guys could see it. It is really stunning. I don't know if this means it just emerged, or if it's one of those in fact, you know, sometimes people see pink katydids, but it's small, but it is really bright pink. And of course, I don't have my phone here to take a picture of it. All right. Sorry, getting distracted. Let's go to songs and mix again, and we're going to end with the calls of the common true katydid. Actually, this is a chorus of katydids. The screen sharing is stopped. All right. I don't know if you were able to hear that or not, because it says maybe I picked the wrong screen. Well, this was going to be like a nice segue to say good night. I'm going to try it again, and we'll say thank you very much for your time this evening, and hope to see you back again. We will be back next week with more good nature, and let's listen to our songs of the katydids. Here we go. No. Yeah, go out and listen. Find yourself a nice wooded nook. You can hear these common true katydids calling this neighborhood, but in if you near forest preserve, if you're near mature woods, you can for sure hear the males calling to the others. That's it, folks. We're going to call it a night before I mess up anything else. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you back again next week. All right.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Pam.
Pam.
Maybe next week. Thanks, Sarah.